Welcome into our Locked On NBA Insider Report. Alex Wolfe from Locked On Knicks joining us for a special NBA Draft Lottery edition today. The Knicks ended up at 11, which was right exactly where they were expected to be. But what they're going to do with this pick really says a lot about the future of this team, Alex. So talk me through the two options that they have here, whether picking it or trading it away.
Yeah, I think there's, at least to me, and maybe this isn't actually the case, but to me, when I look at this pick, I think if there's rumors about the Knicks shopping this pick at all, I think that it sort of says that they're more bought into what happened the season before this past season. In 2021, the Julius Randle second team All NBA, the 4 seed in the playoffs, all that stuff. If they're trying to trade this pick and use it as a means to acquire a more established NBA player, I think that means that they think that they're closer to being that playoff team again than not. If they make this selection, and especially if like Julius Randle's name starts coming up in trade discussions and stuff, I think there's a good chance that they're getting ready for a youth movement. And they're in this weird place where I truly don't, until their actions start speaking, I have no idea what they're thinking. Because first off, the Knicks front office is super tight-lipped. Like,
Mm-hmm.
since the regular season ended, it's been really hard hosting a daily podcast on the Knicks because there's been no news about them.
Yep.
But the other thing is, like, there's been no real concrete rumblings out there about how they feel about Randall despite his really down year, how they feel about these young players that really showed out to end the year. There was maybe one report that said Tibbs regretted not playing some of the younger guys more before like the last 15 games of the season. But it's just a really tough situation to read right now.
Now, we know Knicks fans are never happy with anything, but is there someone that could fall, to this point or just be available at 11 that you think could have, could win over the favor of the Knicks fans and that would be a good addition to this team?
Hey, first off, that's false. Knicks fans are so easily pleased. If if the
When
Knicks would
things
have
go
moved
well, yes.
if
When,
if the
when
Knicks would have moved up to 4 in this lottery, which is the worst possible of all the best possible outcomes, like the streets of New York would have been flooded tonight. But to answer your question about players, I mean, that's sort of the beauty of this draft, right? Like, I think there's with Shaden Sharp declaring early and entering his name into the fray as the guy who was previously the number one high school player of this high school class, meaning he would have been in
Mhm,
consideration for the top pick next year. I
mhm.
think that really shakes up the calculus a little bit. That's going to mean that somebody else drops out of the top 10 probably. And, one of my favorites is Dyson Daniels out of the G League Ignite. I think that he's 6'8", 6'11" wingspan, does some point guard things, which is good for the Knicks, but also can play off ball, plays phenomenal defense, is switchy. That would be great with the Knicks, who have Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, who maybe neither of them profile as full-time ball handlers, but could use just another guy out there to just take some of the ball handling responsibility, but not all of it, and also play great defense and be switchy. I love him, but there's talk that maybe he'll jump into the top 10 too. If he does, then maybe you see a Benedict Mathurin fall, which would be amazing. Like, he was one of my favorite guys, and I thought he was going to be unattainable for the Knicks prior to some guys jumping up like this. Maybe they take Jalen Duren, who a lot of people had as one of the top players in this class prior to this year, who's
Mhm.
a more of a true center, but maybe that signifies they're ready to move on from Mitchell Robinson, who's an unrestricted free agent this coming year. Maybe Johnny Davis falls, who, like, prior to having a pretty unceremonious exit from the NCAA tournament, had like top 7 buzz. So I think they're in a pretty good spot if they choose to make this pick, because there's been so much volatility to the top of this draft so far that I think that someone's going to fall, and it could work to their advantage, hopefully.
Certainly. With such a young team and, Tibbs coming out saying that he should have played the younger guys sooner, is there an availability where if they do make this pick at 11, they could come in and make, a difference right away and see some actual playing time?
That's the real challenge, right? Like,
Hmm.
they already have a deep core of young guys. And a lot of them kind of have staked their claim on some playing time already. Like, Quentin Grimes really won Tibbs over this year. RJ Barrett is obviously a staple already. He's going to play like 36 to 38 minutes a game. Depending on what happens with Julius Randle, he has blocked Obi Toppin for a couple years now and made it so the Obi struggles to even find 10 to 15 minutes a game.
Hmm.
And like Emmanuel Quickly, I think, is really staked a claim to at least like 25 minutes next year. And if he doesn't, that's like a war crime at this point, because he was amazing to end this year. So, I I don't know. I don't know if there is an immediate path for someone to jump in. I will say if my dream scenario happens and someone like a Daniels comes to the Knicks, or you
Mhm.
could say the same for Davis or for Matherin or for honestly Duran too. Like all these guys kind of have defensive reputations that does seem to at every position but the point guard, like really, really matter to Tibbs. Tibbs has thrown some truly atrocious defensive point guards out there, but he loves defensive wings and defensive centers. And
Mhm.
if one of these guys comes in and they're a guard or wing and they could play amazing defense and then do the other stuff well, maybe they'll carve some time out for themselves. But we saw this year, even with, Grimes eventually sort of earning a spot, it took a bunch of guys getting hurt in front of him for that to happen, and COVID and everything else. And same with Quickly and same with, some of the other guys on team. Obi, didn't really get consistent playing time until Randall got shut down for the year, which
Mhm.
is an atrocity. So yeah, I don't know. I wish I could say that I think that if the Knicks do well with this pick, that the player can make an immediate impact, but there's no way to really know because a lot of times Tibbs will have these guys go out there and show out like Quickly did, like Toppin did, like Grimes did, and then still these guys struggle to find playing time, and it just kind of makes you scratch your head. So I hope that if they make a good pick that they do that. I also hope that maybe they just unburden Tibbs, trade away Julius Randle, trade away some of the vets that he loved giving so much playing time to, and just give him no other choice than to play the young guys because I think they had some really good ones last year.
Well, it remains to be seen what they're actually going to do. I mean, they could go either way, and in typical Knicks fashion, they won't let anything out until they actually make the decision. So we'll keep an eye on things. Alex, thank you for joining us, and make sure you tune into Locked On Knicks to keep up to date with all of that. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On NBA.